Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about, you may not believe it, but Rudy Giuliani at the end of the line, but not the Lewis Lyman line. So you might think, how much more could Rudy Giuliani do to defy the law and frustrate the legal entitlement of the Georgia election workers, Freeman and Shaye Moss, to as much of the judgment of $148 million as they could have, given that it way exceeds his assets. And remember, there is a action going on in New York, the Southern District of New York, Judge Lewis Lyman, and that's already at really 11:59 for him, and looking at contempt, which in this case would be in the pokey, because that you can put someone in jail for civil contempt, and the notion is they hold the keys to the jailhouse because all they have to do is comply with their obligations, and that's where it really seems to be. He's been sort of bobbing and weaving to get out of it, and the latest drama, just we'll come back to it next time, but has to do with a storage facility where his stuff supposedly is, and we learned recently that the owner of that facility is a MAGA-ite Rudy loyalist who's, basically saying, I'm not going to turn this stuff over to you. So that's a side drama there. Back, however, to Washington, D.C., and a judge you may remember who's been part of the Trump dramas as the former chief judge of the D.C. District Court, which is often the locus of important proceedings, and that is Beryl Howe. She no longer is, but she has a lawsuit in front of her filed by Freeman and Moss. This one concerns the Palm Beach condo that Giuliani is making a sort of last stand on and digging in his heels, claiming this is his, quote, homestead, close quote. That is, that under Florida law, and there are principles of federal law as well, but he's really trying to invoke Florida law. This is my real one residence, and you can't, and it's true under, in many legal regimes, you can take a lot from a debtor, but can't throw them out on the street. Now, it's really dubious that this is the case. Remember, he's got the whole big condo, luxury condo on Park Avenue. That's part of the other action before Judge Lyman. So it's really a factual question that involves all kinds of issues about how much time does he spend there a year, and where does he declare his residence on his taxes, and all those sorts of factual questions. And when you sue someone and you have to resolve factual questions, they provide discovery. And so we have a motion now just filed in front of Judge Howell, who's ordered a hearing on it next week, that says, surprise, surprise, Giuliani was served with discovery, meaning legal obligations to answer certain questions about this Florida condo. And the absolute deadline was a week ago, and the deadline has come and gone, and Giuliani has produced not one shred of paper. So Freeman and Moss, perhaps burned by having been jerked around, I think is the legal term, by Giuliani for quite some time, but also knowing they've got a real solid, tough judge in Judge Howell, have moved immediately for civil contempt. And they've made it clear you can't do money. He doesn't have money. They're basically telling Howell, put him in jail, and now until he complies. He's got this whole long record of just completely flouting court orders. This was a very clear order where Judge Howell said in court, this better be your client's first priority. And come due date, There's not even any effort at partial compliance, or I'm still gathering the information. There's just not word one from Rudy Giuliani, who's making a career out of giving his middle finger to federal judges. So Freeman and Moss have this time gone straight to the chase being civil contempt. And again, that means you can put someone in jail to force them to comply. And then when they do comply, they can get out of jail. Now, it's an extreme remedy, of course. Query whether any other remedy will work on Giuliani. What are you going to say? Pay, you got a sort of blood from a stone dynamic with money. You could say pay a certain amount, it doubles every day, etc. But will that produce anything with Giuliani? And there's really not a whole lot of range, even though typically a federal judge would go through any other step before saying, okay, bring your toothbrush to the next hearing, because if you don't comply, you're going into the pokey. But that's where Moss and Freeman have said, let's go and do this right away, because it's obvious it's what's going to require him to comply. We'll see what Giuliani has to say. He's been ordered to show up. He has really no excuse. He should be ashamed of his complete disregard for court orders, but he's so long past any modicum of shame. And we'll see what kind of, his instinct is Trumpian. He'll try to go on the offense in some way and blame someone else or talk about Freeman and Moss, but the order is really clear, and you just have to produce discovery. And not even having made any kind of effort, the judge is not going to be pleased. Can't say that'll make her pull the trigger immediately on incarceration for civil contempt, but not sure what else it will be. So at the very least, I think she has to do something like, this is truly your last warning, Mr. Giuliani, and you have a week or something, along those lines. So he is at the end of now another line. I think we will see next week in the hearing. And that is quite the 1-2 punch, Judge Lyman and Judge Howell. And, he's got very few moves in either place as far as I can see, but that hasn't stopped him before, since there's no basic kind of instinct of decency that you have to try to look like you're complying with federal court orders. Anyway, we'll see how this plays out in D.C. Again, the D.C. piece is all about the homestead claim, and Giuliani really wants to dig in here. It's a lawsuit, and he is planning, as of now, to go to trial. He said there's a trial set for January. He wants to go to trial and prove this is his homestead. Of course, before doing that, you've got to comply with your discovery orders, and that's what he hasn't even begun to do. And there's been other cases where he hasn't done it, and he's just had judgment entered against him. But so this is the one where he wants to draw his final line in the sand, but not lawfully, apparently. And, that's just not going to get him where he wants to be. So we'll see what Judge Howe does with him next week, but it's not going to be a pleasant time for Rudy Giuliani. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.